Hi everyone, it's Liz from the Port Moody Public Library, and I'm back with another Scratch coding challenge. Thanks to everyone who participated in Week 1's challenge and shared your projects on our Scratch Studio. If you haven't yet completed Week 1 or haven't shared your project to our studio, feel free to go back and do so. We would still love to see what everyone has created. Okay, so now on to Week 2. So this week, I challenge you to create one of my favorite types of projects, a maze. Why do I love making mazes in Scratch so much? Because the possibilities are endless. Here's an example of a quick maze that we've built. In the backdrop, we've drawn the walls of our maze. Here we have our sprite character that the player gets to navigate using the up, down, left, right arrow keys. Over here, we've marked the endpoint of the maze. This is where the player needs to navigate to. And this red line is an obstacle, which adds an element of difficulty to our maze. Now let's take a look at some of the elements in the coding side of things. First, we'll look at our backdrop. So right now for our project, our background is white with our maze drawn on top of it. If we didn't want a white background, we can either fill in color, or we can look at backdrops here and choose a backdrop. Now, it's important to remember not to make your backdrop too busy before you put your maze on top of it. Otherwise, it will be difficult to see the maze. So I'm just going to leave the background of my maze white. And you can see here that I have drawn the maze using lines. So using the line drawing tool, I get nice straight lines because that's what I was going for. And I've also made the thickness of those lines 15. So it's very easy to see where the walls of the maze are. So if I wanted to, I could add more lines like this or like that. So you just click and drag. If, for example, I didn't want that last line that I drew, I can use the undo tool and it disappears just like that. Okay, now we'll move on to the coding for our sprites. Now we'll look at the code for the sprite that the player will get to navigate around our maze. You'll notice that my code is incomplete, and that's because this week's challenge is for you to decide which blocks you want to use to make a maze that's fun and functional. These 4 keys here will tell the game what happens when the player presses either the up or down or left or right arrow keys. This "when the green flag is clicked" prompt refers to something that happens every time the green flag is clicked. I'll give you a hint. Every time the maze is started, when the green flag is clicked, we'll want our sprite to start at the very same position every single time. And this series of blocks refers to what happens when our sprite runs into one of the walls of our maze. The way I created my maze, I coded it so that whenever the player runs into a wall, he goes back to the very start. These are the blocks you can use to tell your sprite to do just that. Those of you who want to create a spinning obstacle like the one in our example maze, here's some code to get you started. When the green flag is clicked, we forever want something to happen. So here's a hint. You just need one block within this forever sandwich to get your spinning obstacle. We've already tried to incorporate some level of difficulty into our maze by coding it so that whenever our sprite touches one of the maze walls or the red spinning obstacle, he'll go back to the very start of the maze. What are some other ways that we can make our maze more difficult? Instead of using arrow keys, for example, we can maybe have the player navigate through the maze using the mouse, which may require a bit more finesse. We could also create a variable for a timer. Maybe you only have a certain amount of time to make it through the maze. You could also create a variable for lives. Maybe the player only has 3 lives or chances to get through the maze. You could also create more obstacles, just like our red spinning stick. Or you can make obstacles like that even more challenging, for example, by making them move even faster. If you completed this week's challenge, we'd love to see what you've done. So be sure to share your project and add it to our Scratch Studio. To do that, click Share from the project page. And once your project is now shared, you'll want to search for PMPL in the search box. Click on Studios, then click on the PMPL Weekly Challenge Studio. From there, all you need to do is click on Add Projects, and then select the project that you want to add. And that's it. And that's our challenge to you for week 2. We look forward to seeing all of the different kinds of mazes you'll create. Be sure to share your project and add it to our studio. Bye for now and happy coding.